everyone. Now, at the time of recording this particular Court of Public Opinion session, I don't have the figures that the Reserve Bank will have this afternoon on just exactly what they're going to do with interest rates. My guess is that they'll leave them on hold and see what the next few weeks show when the quarterly inflation figures come out, which are a tad more reliable. I think they've got a lot of public opinion to support that argument and a fair bit of public opinion against them not supporting that argument. So we'll see what happens. But my guess is that they'll leave things on hold for another month. Not that 4.1% should frighten anybody, seeing as what we've been through, as I've said on this program many times before, up to 22% under Paul Keating. Whoa. Before we get into the stuff of the day, the Court of Public Opinion. You know, if you want to thump the table, shake the tree, rattle the cage, get it off your chest, this is the way to do it. This is the program that talks about stuff that doesn't get talked about anywhere else. And for the life of me, Peter Clayton behind the camera, and I don't know why that is. But there you go. But we remember the day for a few reasons. My God, well, it's the 4th of July. Pete?
It is too.
It is the 4th of July. The 4th of July, yippee, 1776. Independence Day for the United States of America. U.S. Congress proclaims the Declaration of Independence and independence from Great Britain, 1796. First Independence Day celebration is held. This is where it gets a bit funny. 1826, same day, past presidents Thomas Jefferson and John Adams both die on the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Same day, 1831, James Monroe, 55th US president, 1817 to 25, dies of heart failure and tuberculosis at 73. You know, there's a lot of patriotism. Where you're born and when, of course, you die. We can't pick either, of course. What else? Howard Florey, South Australian hero, Nobel Prize winner in 1945, which was the same year that he was given a knighthood. And, of course, he became a peer. He was Lord Howard Florey. 11 days later, they successfully created, from this day, back in 1941, 11 days later, they successfully created penicillin, which saved more lives than, I don't know, anyone could possibly calculate. The first antibiotic. Egypt claims a 3,000-year-old Tutankhamun bust is stolen, and it sells for $6 million at an auction at Christie's. Well, all these Egyptian things come with various curses, you know. Anyway, that was 2019. 1996, Hotmail, a free internet email service, begins. 1996. This whole technology thing is moving so fast, it's amazing that I can sit here and this whole thing is posted on Facebook and it's uploaded to all sorts of different platforms as a podcast, and it all happens without a radio station antenna and without all of that infrastructure. It is quite amazing the way the world is going. 1847, James Anthony Bailey, American circus ringmaster and showman, was born in Detroit, Michigan. That's James Bailey of Barnum and Bailey, of course. 1987, Nazi Klaus Barbie, butcher of Lyon, sentenced to life imprisonment in France. Gee, I wouldn't have worried about putting him away. I'd have just put him away, if you get my drift. Barry White, the American singer, can't get enough of your love, baby. You're the first, the last, my everything. I don't have the voice for it, but Pete didn't he have the most amazing voice? He was about 30 stone, you know.
Was he?
Oh, he's a huge man, Barry White. And the voice came from way down there. Way down there. 2003. He dies at 58 on this day. I'm surprised he made it to 58. First flight of the Lockheed Vega. A pilot plus 4 passenger monoplane. Its 225 horsepower engine allows it to cruise at a speed of 120 miles an hour. Good Lord. That, where did I get the year? 1927. 1927. You know the DC-3? I don't know, there's one hanging up somewhere. Oh, over there. Not a real one, you know. It's a model. But the takeoff speed for a DC-3, or the military version of it, which was a fantastic workhorse, a C-47, was 120 miles an hour, which was just, it trundled down the runway and just lifted off. Amazing design, fantastic aeroplane. Hungarian physicist Leo Szilard patents the chain reaction design for the atomic bomb in 1934, on this day. There's a great documentary coming out soon about Oppenheimer and the part he played in the first atomic bomb and what all of that meant. Statue of Liberty is presented to the US by Paris, 1884. Still a great symbol for both nations, if I may say, although Paris is going through, what was that movie called? Is Paris Burning? Well, the whole city mightn't be burning, but it's certainly extremely troubled at the moment. Marie Curie, Polish-French scientist who discovered radium, and the first woman to win a Nobel Prize. 1903 and 1911, dies at 66 on this day in 1934. US publication Mad Magazine. What was the name, Pete? What was the name of that bloke who used to appear on the front page? It reminds me of Anthony Albanese. Oh dear, oh dear.
I can see his face.
Yeah. Yeah, what was it? Something E.
Newman.
What?
Something E.
Oh, Alfred E. Newman. Yeah. You're right, Alfred E. Newman. Alfred E. Newman. Anyway, the US publication Mad Magazine announces it'll stop publishing after 67 years, 2019, this very day. Good night, Alfred. Los Angeles Galaxy soccer star player David Beckham, 24, weds Spice Girls singer Victoria Beckham, 25, at a 560-acre sprawling property, castle as well, outside Dublin in Ireland on this very day. Have I run out of time, Pete?
Well, about 4 minutes ago, you
I lack discipline, but I love these things because they do sort of inform. 1944, Ray Marr, Home and Away, born in Roma in Queensland, actor, Australian actor. Rolf Harris is sentenced to 5 years and 9 months for indecently assaulting female minors in 2014. Neil Simon, American playwright, The Odd Couple, Plaza Suite. Biloxi Blues, born in the Bronx in New York, 1927. Casey Kasem, American Top 40, debuts on LA radio in 1970. I thought it would have been earlier than that. And one of the great land deals, I mean, you could almost call it a swindle, by today's standards. The Louisiana Purchase is announced to the American people by the President Thomas Jefferson. God, he was a smooth operator. In 1803. And up until that time, of course, America was pretty much divided by this land that was owned by a foreign country. And once that was owned by the United States, it was the key to opening up the West, which opened up America. The Louisiana Purchase. And it was some ridiculous amount of money. Well, at the time, I suppose, 40 million or something was a lot of money. But to buy the entire state of Louisiana would have sort of seemed like a pretty good deal. By the way, the ANZ Bank reported yesterday that some branches of the bank will no longer have any cash on the premises. It really causes us to want to rethink and redefine what a bank is, doesn't it? Oh well. You may have seen the ads. They're taking advantage of it at the moment. Vegemite is 100 years old. Congratulations. Happy birthday to all the little happy Vegemites. Great product. Stick with it. Pete, do you want to tell us briefly about that American scam? I'd like to warn people about that.
Oh, well, yes, I sold a camera, and it was a scam, but it was a clever one.
Pete sold
I thought it was PayPal, but it was a fake.
Yeah, it wasn't PayPal. They presented themselves as it going through PayPal, and you thought, for all intents and purposes, you were selling the thing. Everything looked right, everything sounded right, everything smelt right. You lost the camera, and you never got the money.
No, be careful for sure.
Be careful. Be very careful of scams. The modern world has got a lot of things going for it, a lot of things on offer, but there are traps and tricks for us to be aware of. Apple, the company Apple, becomes the first $1 trillion company in the world. I mean, that's more than the value of probably about, oh God, I don't know, 90% of the countries in the world. One company is worth $3 trillion. Let's hope it will be a happy new financial year we find ourselves a couple of days into. Well, it certainly will be for Apple, let's face it. Share price will go up, I would think, expeditiously. But just looking at it, you know, I mentioned that the Reserve Bank, as we record today's episode or edition of the Court of Public Opinion, we don't have the Reserve Bank figures, but an interest rate rise almost every month of the last 12 months of the year. We have finished the last financial year on what you might call a fairly positive point or moment. We were expecting a small surplus, I think a couple of $2 billion. To you and me, not terribly small, but in the scope of things, quite small. Well, it now looks like we will have a surplus of just under $20 billion. That's a big discrepancy. A lot of things will change from the 1st of July. Apart from the first significant surplus in 15 years, if I could run through some of these, perhaps, if you're not aware of them, do check them out. Pensions, for example, eligibility, age, concessions and benefits, childcare subsidies, the superannuation contribution from our salaries, that contribution goes up to 11%, like it or not. A lot of people will think it great, a lot of people will not. A lot of mortgages come off the fixed rate that they were on, which will be a bit of a shock. Benchmark power prices up 20 to 30% from the 1st of July, with some going up to 50, 80 and even 100%. How could that be? From the 1st of July, your power bill goes up 100%. The official excuse, apparently, is that these increases are the tail end of the chaos that existed in the electricity market 2 years ago. Tail end. Really? Tail end. In Canberra, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Your pursuit of alternative energy is costing the average household an extraordinary amount of money for your ideological obsession. Can you get your mind around that? The richest, the most wealthy, energy-rich country in the world. And they're making excuses about the power bills. We'll have more to say about this because I don't want to let it rest. The rest of the media will let them get away with it. I won't. I won't. The end of affirmative action, or as some people call it, I think we here in Australia actually invented the expression, positive discrimination. I mean, God, discrimination is discrimination, isn't it? Positive discrimination. Well, it's ending in America. American colleges and universities can no longer consider race while choosing students. All of this came in, as I remember, and I'm sure people will correct me if I'm wrong, in the 1960s in America when John Kennedy, I'm pretty sure it was 1961, introduced it, just to get more African Americans and more Latinos into college. The whole thing about higher education has got to be merit. Got to be. An institution of higher learning should be a meritocracy. The moment you start giving people an advantage on the basis other than their intellect, you start to distort the whole thing. A university shouldn't discriminate against somebody because of the colour of his or her skin, but certainly they shouldn't discriminate in someone's favour because of the colour of his or her skin. Discrimination, as I said, is discrimination, positive or negative. I think it was Martin Luther King, wasn't it, who said the whole thing was about judging people on the contents of their character, not the colour of their skin. You can't have it both ways. So I totally agree with the Supreme Court of the United States of America. It might be the opinion of the more, pardon me, conservative judges, of whom I think there are 3. I don't know. But it's only logical. I feel the same way about handicaps. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but you know they have, let's say you've got a really fast racehorse, champion racehorse, which is maybe going to disadvantage the rest of the field, yes. In other words, it's going to win, yes. So what do? They put more weight on its back, more lead in the saddlebags. And that's not fair to that horse, is it? It's not fair to the punter, it's not fair to racing, it's not fair to the world. People, horses, students, businesses, everyone should run on his or her own merits. You will tell me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you will. But look, I get the spirit, the sentiment involved in trying to give everyone a fair go. But just like the teachers who don't mark the homework because they don't want to discourage the student, that's been a great success, hasn't it? It's not helpful or honest. People, horses, animals of different breeds, indeed individual nationalities are not equal. Some have national characteristics which make them smarter, faster, better. Yes, better. Some are better students. You know, you want to peruse the results here in Adelaide of the highest kids scoring at high school, higher school certificate? They're Asian. That must tell the world something. Some men and women are better at different things. Better at business. Gifted, you might say. Better fighters. Now, when I say that, I'm thinking of the Gurkhas. Better fighters. The most fearsome soldiers in the world. The Gurkhas. No, look, honestly, equality doesn't exist. We should simply strive for equal opportunity. Everyone should have a fair go based on basically that individual's get up and go. That's the only way we sort out the wheat from the chaff. If we don't do that, I fear for the future of the world. Heavens to Betsy. Forgive my passion. DNA tests being used by insurance companies. Have you heard about this? A big kerfuffle about this. But why? Why not? If it is information that is relevant to the insurance cover that you want to take out, why not? Shouldn't the insurance company take into consideration that a person may have some genetic predisposition to, I don't know, well, say cancer, for example, which would certainly affect that policy and the cost of that policy. They have people who work these things out. They basically sort out the cost of the risk that they're taking. And note the difference between insurance and assurance. We take out insurance against something that might happen. We take out life assurance because we are assured we're all going to die. In fact, that's a wonderful song. Have you heard that, Pete? About, you know, we're all going to die?
Yes.
It's not cheerful, but it's funny. It is funny. I don't know. It really is silly. It's just relevant information which is available, if it's available, should be disclosed to the company in question. Now, tell me if I'm wrong. And Pete, before we go, hey, that could be an idea for another podcast.
Yes.
Well, it could be, tell me if I'm wrong.
I like that.
Well, that would keep us going for ages. I heard that in Melbourne they've got one bloke on 3AW who's doing lots of podcasts around, ladies and gentlemen. I hope none more interesting than the Court of Public Opinion. But this one was a high-profile breakfast guy, and his whole policy was, I can't even think of his name, frankly, but it would mean something in Melbourne, but not here in Adelaide. But his whole podcast was so-and-so recommends. So it becomes this great big personal recommendation, which I'm quite sure would leave itself open to some commercial application. But that's probably a good idea, but I don't know that I would take my, personal recommendations from a podcast. I prefer word of mouth. But anyway, look, be that as it may. Thank you for viewing the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. Pete and I'll be back tomorrow. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Believe in yourself, and goodbye for now.